following show may shock, disturb, and offend some viewers. The opinions, theories, and facts shared on this.
All right, people are going to get raw cuts as we go into the live because, you know, this always happens. Okay, press it. Count it down.
Fuck. 3, 2, 1.
God, man. It's such a scramble this morning. Okay, ready?
3, 2, 1.
Okay, here we go, everybody. Jesus Christ. God damn it. All right.
The following show may shock, disturb, and offend some viewers. The opinions, theories, and facts shared on this podcast are not widely accepted by the brainwashed masses, especially those who find dark humor offensive. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. JFK shot in the head by the CIA. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
Beneath the black sun, they whisper of Vril. Power unchained. From the void, from the stars. Eyes, they burn like fire. Visions carved in ancient script. Aldebaran calls across the ether. Secrets the Reich could never admit. Vril Society, shadows in the storm. They're calling the aliens, shaping a new form. In Maria Orsic, lost in the night. UFOs rising in the
Blueprints drawn in blood and starlight, hidden chambers, rituals below, psychic maidens, hair like antenna, channeling forces mankind should not know.
Vril! Macht! Geheimnis! Their black sun glowing in the frozen deep. Antarctic shadows where the prophets sleep. Vril Society beyond the veil. The truth forbidden No one is staying here. The final note, the vanishing clear.
Into the hollow earth or the stars beyond.
Maria's ghost still leads them on. Vril Society burning through the lies. An occult empires reaching for the skies. Maria Orsic, queen of the unknown. Her voice eternal calls deep
Who knows if that was necessary, but we're here now. Can't hear me? What? Check. What, you can't hear me now? I can't hear you. Can anyone hear Aaron who's not? Oh, God. Who can hear what? Can anyone hear me or can they hear Aaron? Can anyone hear anything? We can hear you. Okay, so we can't hear Aaron. So we can't hear you. What is happening? Why do we always have these fucking issues? Oh, Aaron. He unplugged his mic. Aaron is silent. What is happening? Turn off your shit on and off. God damn it. Every time, man. We can't get anything together. Waiting. His mic volume might be good. We can't hear Aaron, that fucking prawn. What is going on? Why is your mic? Oh, fix it! I can't. It's not even like your mic is not connected on my side. I can't even. Oh, there he goes. All right. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. This is what happens all the time for some goddamn reason. I'll play this clip.
I met a strange lady. She made me nervous. She took me in and gave me breakfast. She said, "You come from a land down under."
All right, let's see if Aaron's mic works.
Hello.
There you go. God damn, man. Okay. Welcome, everybody.
Sorry, not to cut you off. When you press something on one of those videos, it said you've been disconnected or something. And then
weird.
I was just like back.
Well, of course, right? This is what happens when we go live. There's no post-editing because it's already out everywhere. So welcome back, everybody, to the show. Welcome back. I'm very excited for this episode. We've been wanting to cover this for a long time. I've been sitting on it. This is actually just we're going to get into the whole nitty-gritty, but even I have a longer episode about the same sort of idea, but I wanted to start breaking some of this down. Should be pretty interesting. Finally, this is what when you go live, it's, anything can happen. It keeps it unique and on the fly. Yeah, we're trying, and I've because we've been sending a lot of episodes for audio to release and stuff like that. I've realized I was like, oh, we haven't gone live for like 2 weeks. I still have to release the Ryan Gable episode, so I was like, we need to go live for this one, have a lot of fun. We got a bunch of people watching, so this should be pretty interesting. So yeah, we're talking about the Vril Society. Nine. So obviously it's gonna be a little controversial, and everybody, you all know what's going on.
Controversial in what sense, though, would you say?
Because do you think this could be real at all? Like, there's a possibility, and we're gonna be getting into the Black Sun stuff within this, but we'll eventually, maybe even next time we record, or go live, maybe we'll cover the Black Sun next to kind of keep it in this realm. But this is a pretty interesting story. If there's any truth to this, people need to be uncomfortable. Yeah, look at the world around us.
Yeah, like I'm quite fascinated by like the Nazis' interest in like the occult and magic and UFOs and all that sort of shit. So yeah, like I don't know, like there's a lot of me that feels like, can there really be that much smoke without fire?
Well, I know they obviously believed in this stuff, and then often I think that like Heinrich Himmler was like super into it, and part of me thinks that they tried to maybe they were doing a lot of this stuff, but then like, could they be over exaggerating it to be like, look at how crazy these Nazis were? You know what I mean? Because like I've watched stuff that it shows the other side of the argument. So I sit on the fence of what is actually true and what is going on and what has happened. And obviously, if you are aware and your content is pushed towards certain things on certain platforms, you can like hear some of Hitler's speeches and stuff nowadays. And it's pretty compelling considering where we are today, right? And it's not saying that he was a good guy. I know there's people out there that think that I think he could be paid opposition. But as far as the research I've done and the things I've looked into, at least as a whole, and the people, everyone like from Ryan Gable to Dustin Emoys believe that he was most likely controlled opposition at first. Maybe he was doing the right thing for his nation. Like they were in massive debt. And he was able to bring the economy out of the rubble and kick out supposedly the Rothschild banking system. And then, you see those videos of him where he's hopped on drugs. Did they start giving him drugs and manipulating him? There's maybe the idea what I was talking about in Forbidden Knowledge News is with Chris, I was like, maybe, when they start channeling these entities, maybe something negative came in. I thought it was Elizabeth April that said this, but one of these like UFO kind of like I channel aliens chicks. I saw a video. I swear it was her, but she claimed it wasn't, but it sure did look like her in the video that I can remember. A blonde girl like at a conference for aliens, and she said that the reptilians hijacked the Nazi movement. Originally, it started off as a movement of people collectively trying to fight back against the interest from certain groups of people distorting and controlling their nation and subverting it, with child prostitution and brothels. And, there would be, as we talked about in the Weimar Republic episode, there'd be like mother-daughter duos, that old chestnut.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I don't know where I sit on a lot of it because I feel
You're saying you're not a Nazi?
In my opinion,
Just kidding.
there's a lot of arguments, I think, either way, as in, him being paid opposition, or did he start out with the right idea? Did someone like get to him? Was there somebody else manipulating him? Was he the big issue? Was he the one in charge, really? All that kind of stuff. I feel like there's a lot of compelling arguments for a lot of different like versions of the story that you could get.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, there is weird connections to this stuff. The fallen angels were those first 200 Adamites who left and went to join the sons of Cain, who left the state of dignity, righteousness, and jobs as stewards for a life of fornication and sin. And that's kind of like the Weimar Republic stuff. Like, just wait till my album gets released. It's pretty epic. Like I've made I did a song about the Weimar Republic. Like it's going to be a lot different, and it's going to be, I think, about 12, 13 songs, and then I'm going to take a break from music for a bit, but it's probably going to be like one of my most epic works. And I talk about some of the stuff that was going on, like what was happening in the Weimar Republic was disgusting. And then, they wonder what books they were, burning and stuff like that. It was perversion. And I'm not saying it like, and this is the thing, I view history in an objective way. I think that that there's no good guys in war. Everyone is just trying to fight for their own peace, essentially, right? And, there is a lot of, I'm reading this book right now called The Cult. I've been reading it on and off for a bit, but that the Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world. And it's written by a Jewish guy who is very critical of Zionism and Jewish people, and actually breaks down in his book the whole Jewish world order in a very elaborate way where he breaks down it all. And according to him and his research, even the British Empire for 300 years was controlled. They would marry in within the families and take hold of everyone's like the Queen is originally from Germany, but there's they're like the Queen's bloodline, and that the royal family wasn't actually English, but supposedly we all come from the Germanic Empire anyway. But like that supposedly maybe
according to who though?
Conspiracy theorists and like ancient artifacts and stuff like that, right? Or is it because there's theories, the Irish existed within where Britain is now and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of that weird history where you Celts were around everywhere.
Yeah, like there's a guy, I think I talked about him, I can't remember what show it was. Richard Stanley, the guy who done the remake of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
So he so I've been listening to a lot of there's a really, like, now again, it's kind of very like History Channel-esque. So like I take a lot of the stuff with a grain of salt. I'm not saying I listen to something and go, ooh, that's definitely right, because it sounds like somebody reading from like a school textbook. But I was just listening to, like, while I was doing chores or whatever, there was this like 4 hour compilation. It must be all different documentaries, and they just put it all together into like one full length thing. And they had Richard Stanley, who is the guy who we were definitely talking about him recent enough. He got kicked off the set of The Island of Dr. Moreau. He was the director.
Yeah.
Because Val Kilmer and fucking Marlon Brando were like insane and whatever. And then he snuck back onto the set as one of the monsters and stuff because he wanted to see what was going on with the movie. But he shows up in one of these things talking about Himmler's obsession with like finding all these like artifacts like the Holy Grail and like all this weird shit that he was like obsessed about.
Yeah, yeah.
And the fact that he wanted to find it to kind of obviously he was obsessed with that kind of stuff. But as time grew, I don't know if you noticed, but like as time went on, it became an even bigger quest for him because they had this like weird like Aryan passport kind of thing where you had to like so like anyone who was involved basically had to sign up as a member of the SS, but you also had to like give four generations worth of like birth certificates and like show your family tree kind of to make sure that you weren't any like weird Jew or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that one of the guys that was like involved with Himmler and all that was like big up in this, I can't remember his name, is something Rand or something like that. And this guy was like obsessed with all this stuff, and Himmler was like, yes, we can use him, we'll give him money to like do this and whatever. And it turns out that the dude was only doing it because he was a Jew on his mother's side and he was a homo.
Yeah.
So he was literally just doing it so they wouldn't catch him. It was like, I'll get you the Holy Grail and don't worry about the fact that I'm a homo and a Jew.
That's crazy. And it's funny that
like,
there's
lots of stuff like that. I feel like guys were probably manipulated into saying, like, if Hitler went like, the sky is green, and they would go, the sky is green. Yes.
Yes,
you're
I know.
right. I will go out there and I will find proof that the sky is green.
He did capture a bunch of people, like essentially like millions upon millions. Obviously, this is fake, but millions upon millions of people. He had the biggest audience ever. As David Bowie said, he was the first rock star, right? So it is interesting once you start looking into stuff. And I question these things. I question what we're being told, right? Because like, at least from what I can see, our society, our culture, who we are as a people are fundamentally under attack. And it's been that way since World War II. And as I was saying, like the British Empire, along with, a lot of like the people that were like when they started the League of Nations, all of those were supposed to be controlled by Zionists. And there's a lot of proof that points back to like that, when we talked about the Khazarian Mafia, same idea of like them infiltrating families, marrying with inside the family, to take control. And they've admitted that they do things like this, even in their own words, that they will do this to subvert and to change without people's recognition, right? Like recognizing it.
Here's something interesting that I saw on the topic of Richard Stanley. It might seem people might be listening going, why are you talking about a movie director that has like no correlation to anything to do with this? But funny, it actually does, because so the guy I was talking about, and I'm just reading here now, Richard Stanley is actually releasing a biography of the German Holy Grail historian Otto Rahn, called Grail Hunter, and it will be published at the end of this month, actually. Otto Wilhelm Rahn was a German medievalist and SS officer who researched Holy Grail myths. So basically, that's the dude that was like, I was saying, that was like homosexual, and he obviously knew that he was like 4th generation Jew or whatever. So he was like, I'm gonna be fucked if, and like a really interesting story. But yeah, he was like on this mad quest, like all over the place to like look for different things and like look for the Holy Grail, and a lot of time was spent in. I'd have to get it's a whole big. It's probably an episode in itself about like his story, but So this is the interesting part. So he was inspired by his professor while attending university. He studied the massacre that occurred in Montsegur. In 1924, he gained a degree specializing in literary history of the Languages and Romances of France. In 1931, he traveled to the Pyrenees region of South France, where he conducted research. Aided by the French mystic and historian Anton Gadal, Rand argued that there was a direct link between all these different people. He further believed that some of these groups were associated with the Holy Grail, and the keys to the mystery lay beneath the mountain where the fortress of Montsegur stood. And the interesting part about this is, I think Richard Stanley, maybe this is why, he's that mad that after the whole thing with Ireland, Dr. Moreau and whatever, he kind of disappeared from filmmaking for like probably about 15 years, but he moved to the village of Montsegur, and he's been living in the middle of nowhere in France, in this village where the Holy Grail is supposed to be buried under this mountain.
Weird.
So I think he's like a bit obsessed about it, like, so he's writing that book now about this dude, but maybe we could cover that at some point. Like this guy.
Yeah, well, we like, it would be fun to cover some of that, those aspects. Like even me, Billy, and Alex did it like a long time before we were ever filming, and did like the Nazi and the occult kind of stuff, and how like Hitler was looking for like the Spear of Destiny, and then supposedly he got it, and then they were winning the war, and then he lost it somehow, or somebody stole it or took it, and then that's when it started to decline. But like, there's so many different avenues and aspects and conspiracies surrounding him as a figure to begin with. Like, were we lied to about who he was? Was he a Rothschild, bastard child? Did he actually was on the good guy side, and then they infiltrated and took over the movement? In the eyes of like people, like I said, Ryan Gable and Dustin Nimoy's, that the National Socialist Party was the people were actually, it was, they were advocating for something good, that they were trying to fight for their nation, but then he was controlled opposition so they could essentially give the Jews Israel, which I always point to because I'm like, without Hitler, there is no Israel. He wanted to originally send it to Madagascar, but the British and French controlled Madagascar, so they signed the Balfour Declaration, and then, they send them to Israel. And this is like, it was during even the war, if not before, they started to migrate towards what Palestine, to take over the parts of Israel, and people have like documented proof that this was happening. So there's all these questions, and I don't know if we'll ever get the actual answer. Like, there's like actual legitimate like Nazis that expose some of this stuff and think that, maybe we're lied to on such a grand scale. And that's the craziest thing, right? If we were lied to about all of this stuff, like how much things are, like, that's the idea when people believe in flat earth, right? They're like, if they're lying about the fucking earth being round, what else are they lying about, right? And it gets into that whole conversation of like, if everything that we know in history has been subverted and changed and manipulated to make us believe who was good and who was bad. But I've written in my music, right? There is no good and bad guys, and they need to persuade you to convince you of certain ideologies and the way that the world works, so you won't question this stuff and question what's gone on in the past. And then, they put categories. This is what cultural Marxism does, is put people in categories of victims and villains, and constantly pits people against each other while they consume our time, money, and energy, right?
It's, I don't know, man. They're a fascinating... Nephew might be joining us here today. I didn't get stressed out, but
yeah, it's just like, the younger generations are starting to wake up, and like I said, like at some point, right, the younger generations, I see it in the kids I work with that are younger, like 19, 20, when they start to realize that like they have nothing to lose, right, and no future ahead of them. The only purpose that they're gonna have is to fight for their future, right? So it's kind of where we're at. So let's break it down. Okay.
Nice.
The Vril Society is allegedly a secret society many believe gave birth to the Nazi Party. Is it that loud? Where's he going? The World War II era was the time when mysteries were created. Were you going to go throw in an SS uniform or something?
No, you were that loud. You knocked over the fan. I was like, whoop.
That's hilarious. All right. Let's switch it up. The Vril Society is allegedly a secret society many believe gave birth to the Nazi Party. The World War II era was a time when mysteries were created and when no one was really sure whether or not the rumors they heard were true. This was especially true about Nazi Germany. For many historians, the Vril Society remains a prime example of truly bizarre rumors about the Nazi regime. For occult researchers, the Vril Society quickly became an example of how technology and magic may be used for evil. Was it, though? Just kidding. Yeah, it's true. History is supposed to be written by the victors, so who are we supposed to believe in all of this, right? And it is such a wild...
That was interesting. The good guys always win.
Yeah, that's a joke from Mark Norman. Not Mark Norman. That he's dead now. You know what I'm talking about. Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald. You know, it's interesting, and like this whole around, you know, the whole idea surrounding this lady is just it's interesting, and this idea of to control, you know, your powers and psychic powers. It'd be crazy if any of this was actually like true, but the Vril Society, also known as I was going to try to look up how to pronounce these, but I'm like, the Aldenschint Ginsenkraft Fundamenten Physik, or for metaphysic, which it literally just says metaphysic, but in a very German way. Meta and then PHYSIK, so metaphysic, or Vril Gunsenkraft, which was led by Maria Orsic or Orsic. Orsic, that's who this lovely lady is. So, and she was the one that was supposedly, you can't keep that one up too long. I've seen YouTube videos though show swastikas. So like, you know, who really knows, but that's not her, but this is her, this lovely lady. I don't know. All the stuff to do with the Palladians and stuff and this beautiful blonde-haired race of beings is pretty interesting. You know, it's such a weird topic. Yeah, and history is an agreed upon fable, they say. So
wasn't some of that stuff disproven though, like the way that the Nazis and like Hitler believed that they were like direct descendants from like this perfect like group of people that lived in Germany and stuff, and then it turned out that wasn't the case. It was like most of us we're all a big mixture of like we're all kind of a bit inbred in a way.
But who said that? Was it the Jays?
Well, again, yeah, but that's like that's the pushback of like, because I feel like if you, maybe not so much anymore, but like maybe at one point, I feel like if you were to be going to school in Germany, you're gonna get the German version of like, yes, we were the good guys, and all the stuff we done was good, and blah blah.
Not anymore.
Go to school in England, it's like, yes, the English are always the best, blah blah blah, and it's like.
Yeah, I know.
You know, the English Empire were also scum.
It's true, and I believe they were controlled by the Jayish power because the Rothschilds sponsored both sides of the war, and you know they funded it, and there's a lot of documented historical proof that is true. Throughout all of these revolutions, also that they funneled money into to, you know, take power.
Here's a question for I suppose you and everybody else that's listening, in real time. When you look up these things and you have like a belief about some of this stuff, though, do you not find sometimes you drive yourself mad? Like, I mean,
oh yeah,
there is pushback for any belief. So I could say, well, I feel like I've done my own personal research and I feel this way. And then somebody else in the comments could literally just discredit everything I thought I believed based on facts. So are we not just like, is it not just all of us are just
screaming into the void?
Well, it's like are we all just choosing a different set of facts to believe with no real proof? I know we might say like, well, I have proof. I listened to documentaries and I read books and someone told me that there's all these documents, and it's like, but without actually having any actual proof, like does anybody have any proof of anything?
Well, there's people that claim that they do, right? But then it's like that's why I question everything, where I'm like, what do we even know is real or not? And that's just so funny because they try to push all the stuff now where you see that like, Europeans were darker skin originally. That's like literally disproven. And you know what? Like, I want to get him on the show. I don't know what people's opinions are of him, but I like Robert Zephyr. I think he does a pretty good job of breaking down this stuff in a intellectual way. You know, it's something you could listen to while you're falling asleep because his voice is very calming or whatever. But I listen to his episode about the Vril Society. I would like to get him on the show at some point, and he does a good job of kind of breaking this stuff down, questioning the narratives, but without doing it where it's offensive to people, where he doesn't call them Nazis, he calls them National Socialists, because Nazis was a slur directed towards them, and he just shows you like a different version without leaning too far one way or the other. And there is a lot of proof, because he fights back against that whole stuff of the we was kings kind of like, you know, that white people are, you know, genetically manipulated by some other outside force or whatever. There's all these like claims. There's even claims that like we're not originally from here, and that white people specifically were dropped here, and that might explain why we have a higher intellect in some regard. Obviously there is Asians do, but how, you know, like a lot of inventions were invented, a majority of them by white Europeans, electricity, cars, planes, like all that stuff, right? So there is interesting like theories about that like, and we won't really know, but there's people that truly believe in this idea of superiority. And now, like I've said before, there's people on the other side that are like, you know, you guys are actually just like that one kid that said white people are descendants of demons and shit like that. And it's like, how about we stop fighting over all of this bullshit and realize that all of us are being targeted by the same people? We all have the same enemy. That's how I view it. Yeah, facts don't care about your feelings. But she was, so Maria Orsic was she was noted as an Austrian medium. She was born in Vienna, endorsed the German nationalist movement to annex Austria with the German Reich. And I heard when they went into Austria, because they're like, they invaded Austria, they invaded Poland. If you actually do the research, there was a portion of Poland that was Germany before World War I. And then it's funny, like you have stuff like this, right? Where they were upset that the Nazis went in and what some people view as invaded Poland, others view it as liberated Poland. They all get mad of the fact that they did this, but then the communist literally went into Poland and took it over, and then the Allied forces, America, well, mostly like the British Empire and the UK, so like they all took the side of the communists. And you see pictures with Churchill and stuff like that sitting with Stalin, you know, and the Communist Party was controlled specifically by the J-ish power, and that's a real thing. There was like, you know, Trotsky, Lenin, even Karl Marx, his name was like what was his name? Someone in the chat might know, but Zebedee Levi or whatever, and they like subverted everything. So why were we rushing in to aid the communists when there is a ton of proof that they were slaughtering a bunch of German people? And that's why supposedly the National Socialists went in, is because they were slaughtering the portions of the Germans that were still left, and they were suffering, so they invaded, quotations. And I heard that when they invaded Austria, that there were celebrations in the streets, and they felt they were liberated.
Yeah, it's what did that say? The whole point is to divide. Yeah. That's true. I've said that from the get-go. Like, I feel like that's our biggest thing. There was a guy on like our national broadcaster here one time. It's a few years back now, but he was talking. I don't think they expected him to say it. I imagine he didn't tell them beforehand what he was going to say. Mm-hmm. And like, it was some interview about like economics and all that shit, like society and all this stuff in Ireland. And he basically just comes out and he's like, the thing that they don't tell you is the issue that you should have isn't with your neighbor, or isn't with the brown guy down the street, or the guy who's wearing like track pants and like maybe doesn't have a job right now and has like 4 kids. It's the guys in the suits, or the guys that you don't see that are in the shadows, are the ones that want you to fight with your neighbor across the road, or the guy that lives next door, or the lady that's down the street. He's like, that's the whole point. And then they were like, well, okay, let's go to commercial break. Thank you. Goodbye.
That's hilarious. And it's ordered out of chaos, right? Because then there's like, if I make a point to speak out against this stuff, if you like, if we're bringing a bunch of people from the third world who come from a place of criminality and corruption, it's not like they're going to change and become like civilized as us and view the world the way we do by walking on our soil, right? So like there's all that argument. And then it's like, of course, that's going to cause division and fighting when people like, they're like the one guy that's creating the Dominion Society in Canada to fight back against this stuff. He's very intellectual in the way that he presents its information. Daniel Tyree, I think I want to get him on the show, but like he was like, you're acting like there's no tension between all of these ethnic groups of different religions and thinking and ways of life, and that we're supposed to all get along is like nonsense, right? So, but she was supposedly Maria Orsic. We'll keep on topic. She was siding with the German Reich, and her 1919 move to Germany in Munich put her in touch with the fringe society, the Thule Gunstenschaft, and exposed her Thule edgy beliefs. This led Orsic and several other of her friends to form a similar secret society, the Vril Society. I'd probably am pronouncing this terribly. I know there's probably people yelling at their radios or their television screens or whatever you're watching this on. You're trying to connect your rabbit ears to get the frequency in this underground bunker.
Using your long hair, paranormal antennae or whatever.
Yeah, which is crazy. We'll get into it, and it's like, it is funny, and like I will always believe there is a big attack on white people.
Though, right? Did she have any skin in the game to like kind of make up this shit and be like, ooh, I'm all spooky and all, let me like get involved?
I don't know, maybe, because there is that argument, man. Like there is that argument that there definitely could have been, because how do you believe these people? Like when I was just on, like I said, Forbidden Knowledge News, we were talking about this kind of stuff, and because we were talking about like, is it possible, like what are our thoughts our own, or are they taken and dropped into our head? Like, and then it's the idea of like, are these people actually channeling something? Because you see those, like, there's that Bashar guy who's like, I am contacting from the Andromeda Council, and it's just like, they're just like, and how do you know if that's real or not? There's one Barbara Mancini or something, and she was very convincing because she'd be like, I am from the Palladian star system, and we need to come together, and it's just like the information that they're giving is like interesting and actually quite positive. A lot of these channelers, like, things are shifting into a different reality. We are raising our consciousness with these beings, and then they do all this. And I'm like, is that even real? Or are you just really good at faking that?
And like, look, maybe it's like the skeptic side of me as well, where you're always kind of, I think if you're into conspiracy theories, there's always a part of you that's always a bit suspicious of everybody and like them having a motive. But like, you're right, instantly when I see anybody doing anything like that, my first thought is going like, okay, what have you got to gain from this? Because there's something up here. Are you doing this to like try and achieve something? Is that the whole point?
Right. And like, and that she could have been doing this stuff of just like, like it just opening your mind up, and it's still, yes, it sounds like a gift still, and it's like, to be able to put on that facade and to convince people that you're able to channel things, and that's supposedly what this woman did. And like I said, like I wouldn't mind getting this book, because I had Robert Zephyr's other book that we'll get into when we talk about the Francis cult and stuff like that, of the secrets, the occult secrets of the Vril. He's an interesting dude. Some people don't. Some people are, not necessarily, I don't know, like him or something like that. I know someone in the podcast game was like, oh, him or whatever. And I was like, I kind of like his stuff. I think he's an interesting dude. I think he's pretty well informed. I think that he could probably win some debates against some people that want to fight back against some of his information, because he spent so much time traveling the world figuring out this stuff. Like, you should follow him on YouTube and watch some of his stuff. It's interesting. Like, he does a good job. It can be slightly boring and daunting in the way he does it. That's why I try to always be high energy. It'd be like, if you just read off a script for an hour, right? As people have commented, that you could do like a falling asleep book, or whatever, like to like
I may still do it.
That one woman that was like, oh, you need to do like a some sort of book
wherever
reading.
That woman is, if you want to pay me, I'll like I'll call you every night and I'll like just talk. You can just give me stuff to read and I'll do it.
Fucking like $10 every 10 minutes, and it's just like
no problem, no problemo.
That's hilarious. The Vril Society. Let's get some epic. The Vril Society believed in an energy source, henceforth unknown to science, that they termed Vril energy. Vril energy was fundamental, limitless, cosmic life force energy, a power source that functioned harmoniously with the natural world, part magnetism, part gravity, part unknown. The Vril Societies believed that if Vril energy could be transferred into a viable technological reality, it would serve two purposes. It would ensure German technology dominance over other nations and assist in furthering their objective to conquer the world, even though there was no writings indicating that. In addition, the closing of World War II made it clear, the Vril Society, that a workable Vril energy source would free Germany from its dependency on the international petroleum cartels dominated by the German conquerors, particularly the United States and Britain. And it's interesting enough too, because like that's what the Rockefellers did, is once they discovered petroleum, they started to take away all the natural medicines and they put petroleum into everything, especially medicine. There's a whole documentary about this, I can't remember the name, where you can watch, where they essentially started to wash out all of the natural medicines. Like, I've collected some books about natural medicine stuff from like the 60s, because especially when it went towards the 80s, 90s, they started to like scrub some of that natural medicine, because they can't make money off of you if you cure yourself off of these cheap remedies, much like ivermectin. There's theories can cure cancer. Obviously, it helped with COVID with some people. So, and they supposedly took over the medical industry and pushed petroleum drugs and stuff and everything, like it everywhere, to take advantage of this stuff, right? So
there was there was someone talking to me in the gym the other day about back in the 90s, and I don't know if this was a thing everywhere or it was just like in Ireland and the UK or what. With like this some sort of food thing that was manufactured, and like you would get the food in packets, and I think you would like microwave it or some shit and it would like expand and stuff.
Ew.
And it became like a big thing, and then it ended up that like they basically went, oh yeah, this is all full of like all cancerous stuff, and there's like fucking like all sorts of oils and like garbage and sewage and all in this.
Yeah, they used to discard stuff in the factories and then put it into people's food. I can't remember. I know what you're talking about, because I'm pretty sure it's the same thing as like where they would just, it would be like stuff they would discard making some sort of product, and then they tricked people into eating it. So they didn't know how to get rid of all of the waste of like this certain like oils that were being produced by things they were making, and then they put it inside of our food.
It kind of reminds me of the thing with like, say, like the fluoride in the water kind of idea.
Yes.
Or like even if we go to like the pandemic, try not to say certain keywords.
Yeah, I know.
But like, you know, the idea of that, like where it was like, oh, we're not sure, let's just get everyone to have a go of it and see what happens to them.
Yeah, I know, literally. And just like
oh, great. Cool.
Let's just they've been experimenting on us for a long time.
Yeah, and so this was the pushback I always made about like things like that, where, you know, like a lot of people are against like, oh, I don't get my kids vaccinated. Even before the pandemic, it was like, you know, I'm not
careful
gonna
with
give
those
them certain
words,
things and whatever.
Yeah,
I know. I knew one was gonna slip out.
Yeah.
You know, and lots of people are against that and have been for decades. It's not like a new thing.
No.
But it's funny because it's like, for as much as you might think, well, I'm not going to do that thing and I'm going to save myself from some weird like growths or like some sort of like internal damage, and it's like, sure, we don't know. Like, I mean, every time I pick up a bottle of water or I pick up something to eat, or I'm like, there literally could be toxic waste in this.
Dude,
I have no idea.
Think about all the stuff we get in bottles that are plastic, right? All my younger buddies are like, my nuts are filled with fucking plastic, bro. Like, because like, think about all that stuff. That sits in the sun. Yo, he's like, all these new kids are walking around. They're like, it's like those balls that clink together that are metal, but it's like plastic. As they walk, it sounds like two like Lego blocks sitting together. But like, think about that. Like, it sits in the hot sun and then it melts into your all those toxins go into your water. That's why we're very careful. I know.
Right now, like I'm drinking we'll give me a little plug here. Carrick Glen still spring water.
It's just tap water.
There's no way. Like, there's literally no way that like this is like, it says like, it's bottled at the source in Glenpatrick Spring in Carrick Glen. Yeah, I'm sure.
All right, so we're gonna call it that. I called you a fucking prawn earlier. I thought
someone says we can't hear me again.
No, that was earlier. I just wanted to show you that.
All right, okay. Yeah, no, you know what he's referencing, right?
Yeah, those alien creatures.
District 9 was like, fucking prawn. Fucking
prune.
prawns.
So let's get back into it. So, the Vril Society claimed they could channel communications to alien races and other and faraway solar systems, reportedly initiated by cutting an apple in half and concentrating on the core of the apple. The Vril Society claimed they could communicate with an alien race called the Vrilia to further their themselves in the general public. And the Vril Society broke into traditional short hairstyles worn by women of the day, and instead grew out, because back in the day a lot of women had shorter hair, and they decided instead to grow out their hair, twist it into long ponytails. The Vrilins believe their twisted hair acted like a sort of antenna to facilitate contact with extraterrestrials. They also donned a unique disc-shaped medallion on their necklace they wore around their necks. The Vril Society sought to form a new world order, did they? A utopian driven and led by alternative science, and they believed an alien race could help them achieve their objective. Die einzigen, die wirklich als internationale.
Oh, you were getting close there to doing something very bad. You want to make sure that people don't screenshot you while you're in the middle of moving your hands like this. You went really like you were.
It's like almost when you hear that, you're almost like, oh fuck, there's some sort of antenna pulling my hand. Oh, shit. What if you do doubles?
It's the Vril.
It's flying
the power of Vril. Shit. The best part is I could just say these are not my hands. If someone screenshotted that, I'm like, these are not my hands. I know. It doesn't even look like they're my hands.
I know. It's so weird. But check. So this is like some of the hairstyles, and there's the medallion. Pretty wild though. They actually had this whole society. Mad. Isn't that crazy? Do you find long hair attractive? Maybe not that long. I'll take long over short.
Yeah, 100%. Jesus Christ, yeah. I don't even know if I could date a chick if she had short hair, I'll be honest.
Some lesbian haircut.
I remember one time I was dating a chick and she got that, like, the haircut that's like that.
Oh, like Uma Thurman?
I guess I gotta break up then, because I'm not into this.
Yeah, see, there's some of the different women that supposedly are part of the society. Interesting, though. Wouldn't you walk on that? Weird. I feel like you'd be tripping over your hair.
Yeah, but man, she's able to like connect to fucking. I don't know. Like, there's some of the stuff that they came out with where they're like, they can channel these like advanced blueprints and they have these knowledge from like the stars and all this shit. And I'm like, but did anything ever, like, other than them saying that, did they ever actually provide anything?
I don't know. We'll get to it, because like even this is just we'll end up doing like I have more to this stuff about the secret societies within Germany.
This will probably show off into like a million different things.
Yes.
Also, I don't know how true this is, but I found this, and I don't think you mentioned this already, but is this a thing? So the term Vril comes from the 1871 science fiction novel The Coming Race.
Yes.
By Edward Bulwer Lytton or whatever.
I was actually going to buy that book, actually.
And then you mentioned about the Vril thing and whatever, but
Helena Blavatsky.
Again, like, that kind of makes me feel a bit weird then, and I'm not saying that like the Germans or whatever made that up, but I'm like, did these chicks or this one in particular come across that and go, interesting? Well,
and then there's a theories of like like the journey to the center of the earth books like that were actually based in some truth, right? So they drip feed this information like, yeah, this is just like fiction. It's, it's not real. And like, we could say like 1984, George Orwell's book very much reflects our society now. And they're literally editing the book to leave out certain things that were talked about in the book that would point to, oh, are we living in that type of society already, right?
Yeah, and it is kind of crazy. I've seen a lot of people in a lot of the like things I watched, and I know people can say, oh my God, you watch stuff on YouTube, but like YouTube or wherever it might be, whether it was on Rumble, whether it was a podcast thing, you know what I noticed getting mentioned an awful lot? Indiana Jones. And
yeah.
You know, the idea of like the thing of like looking for the crystal skull or whatever, looking for the fucking whatever. And like loads of people in the comments seem to reckon they were like, this shit didn't just get pulled out of like Steven Spielberg or whoever didn't just go, wow, I just came up with this cool idea. He was like, this was a thing that ties back to like the Nazis' obsession with like the Holy Grail and the Book of Power and like all
of the Indiana Jones movie, because Steven Spielberg was obsessed, dude. And supposedly he made he made his shoes out of Heather Rook, supposedly.
Kind of scary.
Which is, if that holds any validity, if that's true at all, that is fucking crazy. And that's supposedly how she died, because she had a ruptured organ or whatever, is because what in the circles...
She died because he made her into a shoe.
Because of penetration. They literally, they destroyed her organs by, passing her around at some of these... these little, like they have the stained mattress. They crawl out of fucking sewers. Just the weirdest shit you could imagine. Then people are just trying to be like, that's just an everyday occurrence. It's fine. That's just normal.
The movie critic side of me doesn't agree with any of Tom's comments on Steven Spielberg. So if Amblin Entertainment's listening to me out there, I'll still take interviews.
Yes. Everything we say on the show is just speculation and theory. That is it. This is a comedy podcast. There stuff to do with the I think they're pushing for like a Hunger Games Society, but there is like the remote viewing thing that we'll eventually talk about, like Project Stargate and some of these. There is possibilities that there are some people that there is a lot of proof to the fact that they were able to do this, like during World War I and II, when there was even prior in like the Cold War, this guy was able to see like this Russian submarine, it was like in the middle of a desert or something like that, and they ended up proving that that's where they were building it after this guy remotely viewed it. And they're like, that can't be true. And then years later, it proved like his whole like vision was proven to come true. It's so,
Here's a question for you, right?
So weird.
If you look up the Vril Society just on the surface level, right?
Yeah.
You won't find any mainstream historian or whatever you want to call them. Like, I don't know what makes you that ever gives any validity to the idea of the Vril Society, or even a lot of them will say, like actual historians will say, yeah, like the Nazis or the Germans were obsessed with the occult and magic and UFOs, but they never went anywhere with it. Why do you think it is that they all share that sentiment?
Because they don't want to expose...
Is that a conspiracy? Is that a conspiracy in itself, that all historians are all part of like some other society where they're all like, well, don't say anything, don't tell?
You could say that, because even in the scientific community, when they've discovered certain things and carbonated stuff that disproves a lot of other scientific research or whatever, like we know that like politicians can be bought out. That's a fact. So why do you think doctors, scientists, and historians couldn't be paid to push a certain agenda or direct people in a certain direction to make sure that they don't stumble upon these certain ideologies or thought processes?
And it is literally exactly the same as what the Nazis done, where they had these groups or teams or whatever put together, and it was like, your job, like they got all like the best scientists they could find and put them all together, and it was like, okay, you've got to give us like 4 generations of your family tree and just join the SS, and we'll give you all this money every week, and all I want you to do is just go around and like hunt for these artifacts, hunt for these different things, and then regardless of the outcome, just make sure you have some evidence to prove what we're saying is right.
Yeah, I know, right? And I thank you. Someone in the chat was like, this is legitimate, one of the best podcasts ever. I appreciate everybody. We're getting more and more support all the time. We are shadow banned to some extent. So make sure to share the show and all that good stuff. And that's it. Like, that's why I question everything. I'm like, of course, an historian could be like, well, you know, like nobody wants to point to the evidence of the certain question.
Also, some of it could be fear. I was
Yeah,
just thinking
that's true.
Off the back of it, it's like fear of being, I don't know, cast
Ridiculed.
out or and it's like we talked about before. Assassination now can be in many different forms, and one of which being like assassinating your character. So then you just lose your entire career. You lose everything. You're just gone.
They've done this to people. They tried to do it to Graham Hancock over him just like being like, this stuff's weird over here, like, and it's disproving other things, right? So it's like, and then you have, you know, people on the other side that maybe are Christians that think like the Earth's only 6,000 years old. So stuff that Graham Hancock is looking into is just fiction and fake. And he's claimed that he's been attacked quite a bit for like showing you a different side, right, of what is going on. So it's hard to like differentiate what is being, but I don't trust the mainstream media. Like at this point, if you do, you're not really paying attention, right? Like how could you trust any of these people? You know, there's interesting connections to all of this. The Vrillans claim their philosophical origins date to the Lords of the Black Stone. Sounds like the Black Cube, sounds like Black Rock. Founded in 1221. The Lords of the Black Stone. 999. This sounds like an epic, like... I'm trying to, I was like, do I have anything? No, probably not.
Here's a question while it's in my head as well, and it does. Well, I suppose it directly relates to everything we're talking about in this episode. But is there an argument as well? Like you're talking about mainstream media, or I don't know if I would believe what like the generic history book would tell me, etc. Could you apply the same thing? You know, you see that stuff like if you go into like a grocery store or whatever, and it's like. You've got, say, like, I don't know, I'll simplify it like a huge amount where it's like full fat milk, let's say. Mm-hmm. And then there's that whole thing of like, well, full fat milk is really bad for you. You should go for like skimmed or low fat milk. And that's like on the other shelf. But what you don't realize is the same company owns both.
Yes, yeah. That's
so
crazy.
It's like whether you eat up the mainstream news or you eat up like the opposition.
Yeah.
There's a part of my brain that's like, they've infiltrated everything. We're fucked.
Well, that's what they were arguing is with like the alternative right, like Ben Shapiro and stuff, are still owned by the same people that control all the other news outlets that we all should know by now who that is. And even like we have Rebel News. They do stuff I think in Australia also and stuff like that. It's supposed to be like this pushback and alternative media that expose what's going on. And then it seems they have a lot of Jayish interest, and you know, like so it's. You know, you're not alternative if you're peddling the same thing. And that's why the left and right is totally controlled and gives you the illusion of all this choice, right? So, yeah, the Lords of Blackstone. Metal. Sounds a little metal, eh?
All rise for the reptilian anthem.
Just sounds like weird. So, supposedly... they were founded in 1221. The Lords of the Blackstone are an order steeped in ancient Babylonian and Sumerian theologies. According to their archives, the Lords of the Blackstone were also in contact with beings from Aldebaran, the Aldebaran star system throughout the Middle Ages. Yeah, because this has something to do with like that's what they believed. Aldebaran is what like they believed in. Is like where they were channeling this from. You know, throughout the Middle Ages, it was proposed that this Vril Society had been inspired by the Rosicrucian, the Rosicrucian and the author that we mentioned earlier with The Coming Race in 1871. The novel Linton tells of an explorer who discovers a race of human-like creatures living in the vast subterranean world. These human-like beings called themselves the Vrilya. The Vrilya formerly had been surface dwellers until a global cataclysm and catastrophe similar to the Old Testament flood, forced them to take refuge deep in the earth. They survived underground by utilizing an energy source referred to as the Vril. And this is what he said in the book. Jesus. An explanation of which I understand very little. There is no word in any language I know which is the exact synonym for Vril. I should call it electricity, except that it comprehends in its manifold branches Manifold branches, often forces of nature, to which our scientific nomenclature and different names are assigned, such as magnetism and galvanism. These people consider that the Vril, that they have arrived at a unity in natural and energetic agencies, which they have been now conjectured by many philosophers above ground. Old-timey writing, you know. Aldebaran, whatever. In 1919, the Vril founder Maria Orsic met with members of the Thule Society in a rented hunting lodge in Germany near Buchen-Testengaden. The purpose, I know there's probably German listeners that are like, man, it's terrible. I'm like, it is what it is. Okay, get over it. You know, don't send me an email. It's okay. This is just a comedy podcast. The purpose of this meeting was to discuss telepathic messages that Maria supposedly had been receiving. She brought 2 piles of papers containing transcripts of the messages that she had been giving. According to Orsic and her Vrilian sidekick, Sugren, the messages that came from Aldebaran.
The more you say it, I'm like, what?
Okay, I'm gonna have to it's so funny because earlier I had Google Translate and I was like, and now I was like, I don't need this. I'll just
yeah, it's gonna do that thing. Now it goes like Aldebaran.
That sounds like a cereal. Let me see if I can get your Aldebaran oats. You know, let's see if I can pronounce it for me, Google. Okay, here we go. Aldebaran. That does not sound right. At least even that song that I played, it says it. Aldebaran.
Mine meant Aldebaran.
So I was right. Aldebaran. Solar system. Aldebaran was this is in the constellation of Taurus, located 68 light years from Earth. One series of the message were written in a language that Orsic did not recognize, but thought to be a German Templar script. The second set of messages were completely unrecognizable to Orsic or Sundgren. With the help of the Thule Society members, the script was examined and determined to be ancient Sumerian script, a known language used by the ancient Babylonians. And this will actually kind of start going in that direction. So careful with my hand movements. I have, we're going to be talking like the Babylonian secret societies, the occult and where it comes from. Yeah, it's just like,
you know, have you ever seen Talladega Nights? When he wins the big race and he's getting interviewed and he's on TV and he's like this. And they're like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Where should I put my hands? Like, just put them down by your sides. And then he's talking. He's like,
yeah, I don't know what to do with my hands. What should I do with them? Orsic and her Vril co-leader Singran translated what could and found that messages. They translated what they could, and they found the messages contained instructions for building circular shaped flying discs. Isn't that interesting?
How scary would that have been? Hitler was flying around in a saucer.
Yeah, I know. Oh, man. He's like, just screaming. Imagine him flying around in a saucer and he's got like a loudspeaker on the saucer and it's just like him yelling.
Do you know what I realized as well? The more you like dive into like the whole Nazi movement thing, I feel like a lot of them dudes were like that. If you actually look at them, when you hear about like someone like Himmler, like you would imagine that he's like some kind of like
he was a chicken farmer or some shit.
Yeah, but he was like a failed chicken farmer or whatever as well, which is even more hilarious. Like, how do you even fail at something like that? Like, but you would kind of assume, if you had no prior knowledge of anything, you would assume these guys are like these big, massive, like larger than life, scary, like. I had a vision of what they look like. And then you see a dude that looks like that and you're like, does a lot of this come from like some weird like inferiority complex where you're like
a nerd, like you got bullied?
Yeah, like little dorky glasses and like you're the one that gets like, you know, fucking your nipples twisted and like punched in the dick and whatever.
Well, there's theories like
that position of power and you're like, motherfucker, I'm going to make everybody pay.
See, and there would be people that would argue on the other side, the legitimate people who believe in these ideologies, is that you know, that like they were using some of this stuff to discredit the National Socialist movement, right? And to, you know, because there's theories that like Hitler was gay and they were like, you know, all butt fucking each other. And is that to discredit and make, because it's always been this thing where especially people who own Hollywood have constantly made fun of him. You know, even from someone who I do like and enjoy his views on certain things, not everything, was like Charlie Chaplin and The Great Dictator. Great speech that he did, you know, other than like, now I think about, other than the kind of no borders thing, which now we see is not necessarily a good thing. But he did do a great speech, and then obviously he's making fun of him. And is it because like everyone believed that he was some sort of villainous man, yet nobody, it's funny how often he gets picked out of to be like, you know, he was the most evil person, but they don't mention Stalin or Mao or like Pol Pot as often, when these people did literally, in my opinion, some of them did more horrible things. You can't really like, and everyone did horrible things, but what the communists did and what Pol Pot, some of these people, like, yo, it's like just crazy. The killing fields, like all that stuff that was done to people is fucking crazy, especially in the communist ideologies.
He became like the
poster boy for evil.
Yeah, like he really became like the poster boy to everyone, because like even there was stuff being brought up in an episode of something I was listening to, a historical thing, and like somebody like Mussolini, who I forgot about, and like some of the stuff that he done now, look, to a way lesser degree, like I'm not going to compare him with someone like Hitler or whatever, or something like Himmler, but like it's that thing of like you rarely hear a lot of those other names that often, and I'm like, he crops up quite a bit. And I'm not saying like, oh, he was such a good guy, I don't know why everyone's getting on his case, he's such a nice dude, but like it's funny how like I suppose it would suit the narrative to have one and be like, yeah, let's all fucking collectively push him as like, look at him, don't mind what I done.
Well, that's only reminds me of like what, you know, who owns like Hollywood and stuff, and who perpetrates these messages. And not only like in these viewpoints, it's only because I question like, hey, I don't know, man, like, is like, how much are they lying to us about, you know? And like, this guy look like a bad guy? Looks like he's having a fun time, you know? He's like, yes, turn on the gas.
You know what? You know what I'm wondering though? Like, if we had no context right now, us and anybody watching this either now or after the fact, I don't know if I would be able to look at him and go, oh yeah, definitely he's like if somehow you erased my memory and gave me a whole different version of history and was like, this guy was like a pioneer of his time and he done this and he done that for his country and he was such a great guy, like you'd probably believe it. You'd probably be like, yeah, okay. He looks quite unassuming in a way.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Yeah, some dork with like a little mustache thing that looks dumb. Like,
I know, that's
like
what's
like I look at him there and I'm like, I would pick him up and spike him on his head and take his lunch money.
Yeah,
then obviously it's like, yes, but motherfucker, that's Hitler.
I know, and like I don't know what to really believe. Honestly, it's so funny. There's I saw one guy's account, and it's like our leaders' quotes, and it was a bunch of like Hitler quotes, and there was like, it's like that chick laying on the grass, that meme, and she's like, "We still think about you," and it's him in the bottom of the ground smiling. You know, and there's that, he did say, we'll find out, he said, my spirit will arise from the ashes and everyone will know I was right. Reich. Everyone will know he was Reich. Not saying he was, but let's question things and be like, you know, who benefited from World War II? Who benefited the most? Who got an entire ethno state of their own? You know, there's some weird, there's curiosities, and curiosity does kill the cat.
I think the key thing is saying like that there's no argument being made to be like, oh, the things these people done was right and good and it was the answer.
Yeah.
But like there's definitely a degree there of like, yes, but maybe these people were only allowed to operate within the confines of whoever was above that.
Yeah, it's true. Like, look at our governments.
Let little dumb Hitler do his thing with the gas chambers, idiot. Let him do all that and let them all bicker and fight amongst each other while we sit back and go, ha, 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 and
well, why is there
remove him when we need to?
And that's the argument about that he was controlled opposition, because without some of the, like I said, without him, without World War I and II, there is no Israel, right? Like that's a fact. Like if you look into it deep enough.
Now, I'm going to say something, right? And I'll probably get loads of heat for this. But, like, it's like the thing with 9/11 and the subsequent war that went on in the Middle East. It's like, but if you don't have a reason to go in somewhere, you have to manufacture a reason.
Yes.
You have to
manufacture crisis.
Yeah, you have to manufacture an opponent, a villain. Like, you can't go to war, or you can't, like, with yourself. So, like, you have to have somebody, a placeholder to be like, well, Tom is my opponent. I'm going to attack Tom, and Tom's a really bad guy. And let me tell you all this stuff about Tom. And it's because maybe I want to get something that you have, but I can't just outright make myself the bad guy.
We'll be talking, but we're going to go live for everybody for 9/11 to discuss some of these things, because like that's a pure problem reaction solution scenario where like conveniently, you know, Wesley Clark said like, oh yeah, we're going to attack all of Israel's regional enemies, 7 different countries. We have to topple and take over their regimes using like the CIA and Mossad and stuff like that, and justify it through this warfare that they were conducting, right? And then you need a problem, you know, to manufacture people's emotions to become patriotic. We got to go attack all these crazy brown people with bombs on their chest. Conveniently,
dude,
there was a
that,
you know,
right?
like a passport just found in the rubble.
I'm actually getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it, right? And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, and I don't even know what I don't even necessarily know what my beliefs are a lot of times on a lot of subjects. I'm just trying to give like different, I guess, takes or looks. Like, I'll always play devil's advocate. 1 minute I'll say one thing, and then I'll literally say the polar opposite, because that's how my brain works. Because I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I actually don't even know anymore. No. But I remember when that happened. Like, I have family that live in New York, and like, I remember being taken out of school on 9/11 and that whole thing. And like, before that, I never really remember, at least over here, too much of that conversation. Post 9/11, dude, I remember it was like every time we traveled to New York, there was always this weird fear, and it was even from a place of complete like ignorance and not knowing. But I remember like traveling with family, and like some of the older members of the family would be like, "Oh, there's a guy with a turban. Jesus,
I know."
Fuck? And it was like this thing where it was like that manufactured. Like, does that mean like what? Wait, now he's going to JFK? What?
Yeah, manufactured consent.
You've been given like an enemy, and you don't actually have any context or know anything about it. And it was like all of a sudden, anybody who wore like some sort of a turban or like a neck scarf, and like maybe had a big beard, was like automatically a terrorist. And it was like, where did that? And we all kind of fed into it and went, yes, I believe that. That's true. And like you said, the whole thing with what was it you said there a second ago about, oh yeah, like passports and stuff.
Yeah.
Like how, like the chances of that, like
all that stuff, dude,
and that is like astronomical.
And even some of like all and what's happening now also with the whole like October 7th thing, another crisis that needed to be manufactured that you can, but like they had the Iron Dome just wasn't working that day when you have the most advanced surveillance technology, all that type of stuff where you start to look at it. And I'm not saying like, because I even think some of the Palestinian protests that are like literally taking over all of Ottawa, and they're using these people as weapons, I've always said, because that's literally what they're doing. You know, I think it's all being paid and controlled and used, like all these movements. You got them waving around fucking communist flags, and I'm like, do you idiots not even realize that communism was literally perpetrated and orchestrated by J-ish power? And meanwhile, you're saying you don't like them, but you're waving communist flags at a Palestinian protest, and they're using all of this. It's all on purpose. It's all being manufactured. Someone has a question for you, Aaron.
Quick question. Are you just sleeving your arms, or do you plan on going full shirt? Not trying to change the subject, not expecting a long answer. I probably will go full shirt at one point, but the reason I haven't is because I train and teach jiu-jitsu, so it's like this big healing period when I get a big tattoo, and I'm like, and at the work, I used to, dude, I remember getting some of these tattoos on my forearms, and I went to training that night, and I was like, how I didn't end up with like some crazy like skin infection and like,
dude, I've seen some disgusting shit if like people who've, you know, got their tattoos infected.
It happened to me with the Scooby-Doo tattoo, actually.
Yeah, I remember that.
I went to the sauna the same day, and I was like, it'll be fine. It's like, it's just a bit hot. It's like, it's grand. I didn't think about, obviously, everyone else's like sweat and like spit and body fluid and piss and stuff is probably all in there. And like I was like touching my hands off of the things, and then I probably like rubbed it into that. Dude, that thing was like a 3D tattoo.
Ew, man. I know. Fucked.
So there you go. There's a bit of cool information for that person.
So Orsic and her Vril co-leader, they translated these messages and said that they could maybe build these circular flying discs. That's why I always thought that, like, maybe, you know, the UFOs that we see that are metallic are military made, and then there's very strange videos, and I think there very well could be outside alien technology. And then you see some of those UFOs where it's like, I've said this before, they change colors constantly, and I've seen weird stuff on my own. I've seen UFOs. I don't know how to explain some of the things that I've seen.
You just had up was like, they're so uniquely like German looking. I don't know why. Yeah. Like, I feel like that's exactly what a German UFO would look like.
Yeah, dude, it is crazy. And I think that they did have some of this technology. I think it's quite possible to try to hide all this stuff.
That's scary. Yeah. I feel like if I looked at that in a history book, I'm like, yep, that's real.
Yeah,
That's
it's so crazy.
Real.
And they claim that they've seen them and stuff like that. There is many witnesses, even through abduction cases, that claim that they've seen like UFOs and Nazis flying around, or them being abducted, and then they see like a reptilian, and then you know, like a Nazi hanging out with a reptilian, and you know, making deals with them. Supposedly the Vril, like, we'll get into it, but supposedly the Vril were like reptilian creatures, and there was maybe the idea that they were manipulating them and giving them this image, you know, because I talked about this recently, of like that the reptilian supposedly, it's not like they actually shapeshift, they will project an image into your head. So instead of you actually like, so they're not actually like, it's not like, you know, it's not like V where they're pulling off their mask and there's a reptile face underneath. It's like, because human brains are so malleable and easy to manipulate, look at what they've done with even just the mass media during the pandemic, through all these things, be able to manipulate and persuade people to think certain ways. So they're able to essentially cast an image on your mind, and you see like a beautiful blonde lady, but behind that almost like virtual screen that they project in your mind is some sort of hideous reptilian creature.
Here's something that this is kind of a little bit off the cuff, but I would also like to throw it out to people who are listening, and maybe it would be fun for all of us to jump on a live and kind of do this in real time together, maybe in the next 2 weeks or something if Tom has time. Have you ever heard of a movie called Frankenstein's Army?
No.
Okay, so it's a kind of a found footage style. The way it's shot, it kind of goes between narrative and found footage. And it's set towards the end of World War II. Russian soldiers pushing into Eastern Germany stumble upon a secret Nazi lab, one that has unearthed and begun experimenting with the journal of one Dr. Victor Frankenstein. The scientists have used the legendary Frankenstein's work to assemble an army of super soldiers stitched together from body parts of their fallen comrades. A desperate Hitler's last ghastly ploy to escape defeat.
Yeah, that's all these movies and things of the lore and like surrounding, like they were doing these crazy experiments. Like, and that's why I'm like, I question it, because like, even, you know, I was going to say this earlier, this idea that if you question the burnt offering, the hula ha, you know, you can't even say it really. If you question that, then you can be like charged and stuff like that, which is like, you don't need to make laws for the truth. You need for a lie to keep a lie going, to be like, you can't question this. But there is like, why would, like, you know, the whole, why is there wooden doors? Why was there no traces of Zyklon B actually found in that Jewish guy, David Coe, who was a Jewish young kid that investigated this stuff and made a lot of claims that it wasn't what we think it was, right? And that's crazy that German woman that was like in her 90s, and they jailed her for saying, this is not what I saw, this is not what happened, I was there, whatever, right? So like, you don't need to make laws to persecute people based on truth. You do for a lie to keep the lie going. It's a very weird thing. It's the same, like there are certain like laws or whatever, if you question the idea that the natives were genocided in Canada, even though there was not really any historical proof to prove that is accurate. It was used as a political talking point and agenda. 95% died unintentionally from disease. Like, that's a fact. Like, a lot of the settlers showed up and worked on, actually became friends with certain tribes. But if you question that, there's no one's been charged for it, but you can like be persecuted for like just being like, I don't want to believe what you tell me to believe, right? So that's a very weird thing. So if you question things,
Dude, we should do a watch along with that movie.
Okay,
and
we'll have to check
get
it
into
out.
some of like the like Nazi stuff or whatever as well.
Maybe before we get into the Black Sun idea even in more, you know. Yeah, Slim Charles from The Wire. We fight based on that lie when Barksdale was fighting Morlow's crew. What is that? I don't know if I'm not aware, of what you're talking about. So obviously, a similar mentions of these flying machines was made 1,000 years earlier in an epic poem by Sarah Manganana Sutranhara. Sounds like a maybe Middle Eastern name or an Indian name or something along those lines. And it said, strong and durable must the body of Vinama be made, like a great flying bird of light material. Inside one must put mercury engine with iron heating apparatus underneath, by means of power latent in mercury, which sets to drive the whirlwind of motion. A man sitting inside may travel a great distance in the sky. The movement of the Vimanas, or whatever, are such it can be vertically ascended, vertically descending, or moving, slanting forwards and backwards. With the help of the machines, human beings can fly through the air, and heavenly beings can come down to earth. Very strange. Someone in the chat just kind of mentioned that stuff. Yeah, the Vimanas. Oh shit, really? Mercury? Yeah, that's what someone just said in the chat earlier. Mercury spun at a high RPM counter-spinning container of mercury, some said. That's it. So who knows, man? So the flying machines constructed plans that Orsic and Seagram received by the Aldebrand cereal. Aldebrand planet were rushed into universities in Munich and were examined and detailed by Dr. W.H.O. Schulman. Schulman concluded that it did indeed contain viable engineering specifications, and that flying machines that are constructed, specs mapped out, could possibly work. The decision was made to attempt to build a strange Vril energy craft. Maybe. Financial constraints slowed the construction progress by 3 years, but by 1922, parts of the flying machine began arriving from various industrial sources, with additional financial provided by the Vril Society. The plans detailed a machine whose principles of flight utilized circular discs spun in counter rotations that created an anti-gravity effect. This is reminiscent of the Old Testament's fiery chariots mentioned in the book by what's that guy's? That German guy? He's always on the Chariots in the Sky. Someone's getting in the chat. That German guy. It's always on Ancient Aliens. Oh, it's gonna bug me. Someone's gotta know. He wrote about similar stuff like this too, and like a flying wheel within a wheel. The construction efforts began in earnest in 1923 after the financial constraints were worked out. Some wonder why Aldebaran star system inhabitants would assist Vril with the development of advanced technologies such as Vril flying machines. The Aldebaran response in kind, it revealed that Aldebaran saw an economic disparity in Earth's cultures that fueled this perpetual conflict between various countries scattered around the planet. Free transportation such as Vril flying machines would provide easy movement between countries that could alleviate this division between various nations. Sadly, during this time, Hitler came to power and the National Socialist Party had a different perspective of using these Vril flying machines. Weird, they're originally saying that they were, now I remember it. I haven't even looked at the chat. I was like, it's Danikin. Yeah, I was like, as soon as I'm like, it's almost like I didn't even click on the chat yet. And it's like, someone projected that into my mind. Yeah, Danikin. It's weird, dude. It's interesting that I wonder if you could say any of this is true and they're trying to utilize it and being like, all these aliens are like, we see a lot of, you guys are constantly arguing with each other, so we're going to create a flying machine and you guys can all hang out together. You can go from nation to nation and realize you're not so different. You can go to India and see someone pooping on the beach. You may not necessarily think that it's an okay practice, but
with the Indians again.
Well, it's I don't like that they're taking over. Cultures are different, and it's like we're not all the same, and it's something that is becoming more and more apparent, right? You can't just be like, well, we're all the same. It's like, the culture's living still in the Stone Age and don't understand, basic sanitary practices. Should have to learn those before they come into our country. So even in November 1924, Orsic attended a meeting in Munich, Germany, and attendants were Orsic, Rudolf Hess, and Rudolf von Stubensendorf, founder of the Thule, Gussenschaft, or whatever, the Gelsenschaft. The proposed meeting was to utilize Orsic to channel communications with Diedrich Edrich, the prior Thule member who had died a year earlier. Interesting, yeah. I thought we had a picture of him. Maybe because all these beliefs go back to the kind of same thing. During this session, the voice of Eckhart emanated from which would have been crazy because she's channeling, and then this guy's like, he's yelling in German. It's like a man's voice.
Definitely get clipped.
Yeah, me yelling like that.
That's definitely getting clipped.
The ancient Indians had detailed accounts of weapon gods used as much like nukes. Oh yeah, well they in that story of like the story of like what was referenced by Oppenheimer. Now I become death, the destroyer of worlds, is the idea that there supposedly was some sort of nuclear fallout in ancient times. Has been written about in many different religions. Some of the ancient Hindi scripture. It's one of the old. It is interesting. I don't know what happened over there. They blame the British Empire 80 years later, but Canada was built in about 100 years with the blood, sweat, and tears of Europeans. So I don't know, like, how the fuck they still live in that like they do. I don't understand it. It's just fucking very strange to me. It's not all people, not all of them, but always them, right? So like, let's just differentiate that. So during the session, his voice came out, and just starts yelling in German or whatever. Suddenly the message stopped, and the voice of Eckhart proclaimed that a very important message had arrived. The voice changed to an unknown woman's voice and identified it as the Sumi dweller of the distant world, which orbits the star Aldebaran in the constellation you can call Taurus the Bull.
Exactly like that.
Exactly.
Anybody who's just listening and not watching this, that was an actual recording Tom played. From the time.
The voice explained that Sumi was a humanoid race who colonized the Earth 500 million years ago. Yeah, stop complaining about European colonialism and the fact that we gave you the modern world. Literally, without colonialism, bad things happen, but without it, there would be no modern world that we exist in. There would be no cars, planes, electricity, telephones, cell phones, none of it, because like it came from that whole, colonialism coming in and obviously utilizing certain materials that maybe people didn't even know were there to begin with, let alone how to use them in the trade of the, the economic world structure, which is a conversation for another day. But like the Sumi explained that they had built great cities in Iraq. And there was an episode that we'll be getting to that kind of covers this whole idea with the Project Stargate and maybe what they were actually looking for in Iraq were the ancient time portals and stuff like that. Those that have survived a great flood were ancestors of the modern day alien races. That's why even Iran, the word for it comes from Aryan. And supposedly some of we're more connected to more connected to these people than we think.
And the X-Files little doodle-doo-doodle-doo.
Because you never know, man. And supposedly the intellect. The intellect of Iran, like the people that live there, is pretty high actually, and it's just sad when you see some of those countries when they were more I wouldn't say progressive, but that's how people would label it. But when women were wearing skirts and looked more westernized, and then the extreme Islam comes in, which I believe is controlled through different series of people that utilize them, problem reaction solution, as we said. But it's sad to see what they used to look like, and now it's where's it, Afghanistan? Women they only have one eye hole now. You can only look through one eye hole in your burqa. So crazy.
It's just mad. Some of the stuff is just mad.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a medieval fucking thought process. Their culture are living in the medieval. the red hair gene over there and people who exhibited it appear to white as fuck. Well, that's why maybe they don't want you depicting Muhammad, because there is a whole like cult of in Islam or whatever that it practices the beliefs or whatever, right? And they all dye their hair or their beards red because Muhammad supposedly had a big red beard. And that there's people that point towards, they don't want you to depict him because he kind of looked white. So like, it's really weird. I can't remember what that cult is called, but it's pretty interesting. We could probably cover it at some point. But you know, and then they said the modern day Aryan race, as they were channeling this, they asked for proof, and in a trance, quickly scribbled strange symbols on a piece of paper that marked later examples and deemed to be ancient Sumerian texts. After more than a decade of work, the Vril spaceship finally reached conclusion in 1934 and was ready for its first flight. Flown by World War I ace Lothar Waltz, the aircraft christened the RFZ-1. The RFZ-1 took off, and the craft wobbled to an altitude of 60 meters and was quickly brought down on the ground. I wonder if you could ever like dig up some footage of this stuff, because people claim that there is footage of them using this technology. So it wobbled to the ground. And then upon landing, the craft spun out of control and ripped into pieces. So that you'd be like, all that hard work, God damn it, gone away. And then the towards the end of 1934, a second craft, the RFZ-2, was test flown successfully. Nazis' interest in unusual aircraft peaked with the EIV, or Black Sun Group, a division of the Nazi SS. The Nazi Luftwaffe, but it took over the project. Funding continued at a slow pace, while the EIV group competed for funds with the Nazi Luftwaffe War Plans production group. 10 years later, in 1941, another craft, the Vril 2, was put in production. And the craft was driven for a vertical lift. The Vril 2 production crew noted that the engine produced dramatic effects that when accelerated. Descriptions of the blurred contours and emissions of luminous, like this ion colors, were included in the research paper, supposedly. It was around this time that the third critical meeting occurred. In 1943, Orsic and Segren attended a meeting that at a seaside resort in Germany. The purpose was to specifically discuss the Aldebaran project. The Vril Society had received additional information about the two inhabited planets around Aldebaran's sun, and the group continued planning a trip to a faraway solar system. And head of the National Socialists heard about this meeting several months later as the Nazi war machine began to grind to a halt. Another meeting was discussed, the project, on January 22nd, 1944. A meeting with Hitler, Himmler, and Dr. W. Schumann and Kunkle of the Vril, one of the Vril Societies, met to discuss the 68-year light year trip to Aldebaran. It was reported the plans were given by the Vrilians, explaining that they were to fly through dimensional channels from our solar systems to Aldebaran. Later that year, the seventh, the craft that was built was named Vril 7. It made its test flights authorized by Hitler and Himmler. The project reportedly produced very surprising results. After the first test flight, onlookers claimed that the Vril 7 looked as it was been flying for 100 years. Upon return, it was its outer skin looked aged and damaged in several places. Weird. Said after the first test flight, onlookers claimed the Vril looked had been flying for 100. So as they were testing this, it's like eroding as it's like going through the air, obviously in this like anti-gravity matter, however the propulsion systems work. It looked almost aged because of obviously the amount of power maybe produced by it. And there's obviously an Operation Paperclip that we'll get into where they took, a lot of this technology, Aldebaran.
I didn't realize as well how many like movies and games and TV shows and stuff use the whole idea of like Nazis' involvement in UFOs and
it's such a big thing, dude.
Yeah, just off like the cuff there, I was looking. So like the Hellboy movies, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Nazis open a portal using occult rites to summon monsters. The Dead Snow franchise, Nazi zombies are reawakened in snowy Norway. Frankenstein's army, Nazi scientist creates monster hybrids using reanimated corpses. Blood Creek, I haven't actually seen this one, but it sounds interesting. A Nazi occultist seeks immortality through Viking rune magic.
Yeah, because they were obsessed with that stuff too.
The Keep from 1983. Michael Mann's cult film about Nazis accidentally awakening a supernatural force in a Romanian fortress. Interesting. Shockwaves from 1977. Shipwreck survivors encounter aquatic SS super soldiers.
Yo, it's Frogman. It's Nazi Frogman, bro.
Scary, man. Have you seen Overlord, actually, from 2018?
Yeah, isn't that where they go, that haunted location or whatever? Is that right? That house, they're held up in that house? I think, right?
It's, let me see. Let me pull it up here. So
oh, there's maybe I'm thinking of the other one. I've seen, like, pull up the image because I have seen it before. It's just interesting. I don't know. Like, we're going to get into the Black Sun stuff. It is interesting because there's a lot of the younger generation that, like, does all, if you look on TikTok, you type of Vril clips or Vril edits, a lot of these, like, younger kids are starting to, like, question some of this stuff and what happened. Oh, yeah. This was I actually really enjoyed that. I haven't seen that in a long time. Oh, some gay anime. That's yeah.
There we go. That's better.
Oh, yeah. That was a pretty good movie.
Fucking good movie, yeah.
We should discuss it on your show at some point, but I haven't seen that in a while. But there's another one. Yeah, I think it is that one when they get locked in the house or whatever, and then like it starts to get weird and more creepy.
Yeah, so they're pinned down basically by German forces, and then they end up kind of sneaking into this weird like underground bunker. And when they get there, it's a similar thing where they find all like experiments that were left over from like the Nazi thing,
which is weird. Well, Russians doing a similar weird shit, swapping doff brains, making women breed with primates. I'm sure, because it's like we talked about this recently on certain episodes, and when I went Forbidden Knowledge News, it's like, hey, like, what, like, some people are just like, let's just see if this works, right? Do you want to fund me? Because you're talking about, like, the melon heads, and it's just like, I don't know, maybe they were developing some of these creatures, like, the theory, one of the theories about, like, Roswell was that it was, like, to maybe poo-poo some of these, like, alien theories, is that it was, like, the Russians experimented on these children and then fit them into this tiny craft and then flew it into New Mexico, and it crashed because of like radio signals, and to scare like the Americans that they had like this crazy technology and like that it was aliens, or it was such a weird theory, but supposedly that's one of the theories is they send some retards in a fucking spacecraft to like fly into like New Mexico to scare the shit out of them. Oh, dog brains. Okay. Yes.
Yikes.
That's weird. That would be swapping brain, like being like, here, I'm going to put your brain, a dog brain inside your brain, so you can rewire it. Yeah, I see people have heard of it. Been messing with stuff like that for decades. Yeah, and it's, imagine like the technology that they have today. So there's this little last portion of this, and then we'll get our thoughts, and then we'll be recovering stuff like this in even more detail at some point. I have even a more extensive episode that gets more into the more occult aspects and stuff. It does come back to eugenics a lot of times, throughout history, and experimentation, and how do we become better. But I feel like there's a lot of dysgenics going on. I think that everyone is getting more and more dumb, and they're purposely deluding people and to make them more and more stupid. It sure seems like. So upon conclusion of World War II, many Nazi war criminals fled the country. Orsic and the Vril Society were last heard from in 1945. A Vril letter dated March 11, 1945 was sent to Vril Gensenkraft members, written by Orsic, and concluded with the Nunden, I'm not going to pronounce that. Nobody is staying here. That's what it says in German. Orsic and the Vril disappeared forever. It seemed to have been rumored that Orsic escaped to South America or Antarctica. Many believe she escaped Germany with other Nazi war criminals. Immediately after Orsic's disappearance, it's rumored that the Americans' expedition to Antarctica was launched, which we'll definitely get into Operation High Jump at some point very soon. It was widely known that Americans sought the Nazi technology after the defeat of the Germans. Although the Antarctica expedition, known as Operation High Jump, proclaimed that these objectives was to study Antarctica, many believe that Admiral Richard E. Byrd's true objective was to flush out Germans in Antarctica and capture alien UFO technology. The expedition began in 1945 and ended abruptly in March 1947, 2 months later. The world received the first reports of a modern-day UFO, the 1947 Kenneth Arnold sighting, which I think we've mentioned before, but, you know, who knows, man? Who knows? And the thing is, too, right, like, it is quite, like, the Operation High Jump, supposedly they, you know, went into Antarctica, and, like, they're battling, like, Nazi UFOs, and all that stuff is pretty interesting, because God knows if there was any truth to any of that stuff, but, like, there's a lot of proof that he did go down to, Argentina. There was a very lot of Nazi sympathizers down there. And then there's the like U-boats that they had, and some of the submarines were so advanced that the Americans were like surprised, right? And like, or did they maybe go into like Hollow Earth? Because I always love that theory. Like one of our the first, Hitler faked his death and he escaped from our like original intro. And then one of the third episodes I ever did was an episode, well, I'll put on a Patreon at some point. I should still have with my buddy Quinn, where we first just started to get the show going. I was debating on who to have on, and we talked about Hitler faking his death, and it was pretty interesting, because you don't know, like, how much of this is just, like, make-believe fairy tales to you know, or how much of it is true, you know, and how much of this, were they hiding technology?
Do you know what it reminds me of? And this is a weird way of tying it back to something else, but I'm assuming you've seen the Scooby-Doo live action movies, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Sarah Michelle Gellar, I think she plays Daphne in the movies?
Yeah.
And when she goes, there's a voodoo shack on the beach, and she goes there, and the dude is like, I'm trying to do a voodoo ritual or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, whatever you do, don't go up to that spooky island castle or whatever. And she's like, that's exactly what you would say if you didn't want me to go up there, because you think that I wouldn't go up there, so then you wanted me to go up there. And that's what this reminds me of, where it's like,
I know.
All these theories, I'm like, you would want me to believe that this is too far-fetched, so I wouldn't believe it, because that's exactly what you want me to do.
Why is there all these treaties with Antarctica?
You know? So it's like, I don't know. It's so fucking like...
What's with all the treaties with Antarctica? What is there, right? What are they hiding there? What have they discovered there? And there's you know, the New Schwabenland, where they're like, this is ours now. And supposedly what I was watching and some docs about this stuff, you know, and they're like this ancient technology that they have that they found, or it's quite compelling. We don't really know how deep this stuff actually goes, but there was theories too that in Antarctica, because of like this warm wind, essentially went through, it formed like, because of the cold, somehow these weather anomalies, where it made like this perfect giant structure where you could access it through essentially submarines, and able to go into these caverns where it was this hollowed out massive structure that they could build inside. And essentially, you know, this idea, like you think of the movie The Coming Race, from, you know, Iron Sky 2, of these they took all these conspiracies and put it into a movie, and it hollowed out inside of this giant the icebergs, essentially, and they were able to build technology with inside of these huge cavern systems, and it was totally tucked away and hidden from everybody else. So they know that the National Socialists had boring machines. There was proof of this. There was video footage, supposedly, and I've definitely seen photos that they built these giant boring machines to dig into the ground. And people claim that maybe they were looking for Hollow Earth. I do want to really cover that at some point and really get into that Operation High Jump first, and then maybe the ideas of Hollow Earth. But I think next time we record, maybe to keep down this path, we'll do the Black Sun, which shouldn't be as long. We can break down some of that. And it mentions some of these theories. So I don't know. It's weird. You guys can always tell us what you think. Obviously leave comments in Spotify or on the YouTube video or Rumble and tell us what you think about this. It's just, I here to question everything. And some of the stuff is fascinating and very these are these are the hearts of conspiracy theories, right? This is where, especially stuff like to do with the Nazi lore and experimentation and UFOs. This is the heart of conspiracies.
Yeah, I always found this stuff fascinating, the whole way through growing up until now. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I never get any closer to an answer or to even, sometimes I might lean one way and then I'll hear something or somebody might send me something or I'll get put onto a book and then I'll read that and I go, oh, that changed everything I thought I felt.
Yeah, I know.
And then I'll hear something else. I'm like, actually, wait, no, that sounds like lies now. So now I believe something else. And I'm like,
dude,
give me an answer.
I know. And sometimes it's where I'm as I get older, I'm also there's times where I'm very much maybe this is we're just supposed to be here to be slaves and be manipulated, and God knows, maybe there's never going to be aliens or some sort of outside positive force to help us because we need to help ourselves. And then there's times where I'm or maybe there is, and they're trying to, more and more people are waking up to what's going on, so maybe this is going to help raise our consciousness. There's these theories about, aliens were going to show up in the 80s, but our consciousness wasn't raised high enough, so they couldn't essentially infiltrate and change our reality because we weren't ready yet. We're constantly fighting with each other, and I'm part of it, where I want my country and stuff and nation to stay what it was and what it was when I was growing up. I want my kids to experience that. I don't want to live in a third world country. I'm sorry. I don't want to live in India. I don't want to live in Palestine. I don't want to live in a third world country because people are a reflection of where they come from. And if they don't assimilate and choose to change the way they view things and live in these barbaric, sometimes religious beliefs, and don't want to accelerate to a higher level of consciousness and ideas, it's not going to help anybody, right? So and that's why I push back against some of this stuff, and I'm this is why I view the ways I do. It's not because it's hateful, it's actually love. And I appreciate all the listeners wherever you come from, whoever you are, whatever, whenever, it's just, I found some of this stuff interesting and we wanted to go live, and get into this stuff. But yeah, at some point, we'll probably wait a year to get back into, I want to do the Black Sun next, maybe, because going on this path. But I have even a bigger, though, even more in detail about, the German secret societies and the whole Vril idea and how even deeper it goes. Because realistically, we have always our own thoughts, and I never know how to end these things. We probably could have done just an hour, but me and Aaron, we usually get together. We always, have these kind
problem.
I know, these perplexing ideas where we're let's talk about Scooby-Doo for 10 minutes.
I suppose in one way it's probably a good problem to have when you want to do a podcast or a show. It's the fact that you can talk and can't shut the fuck up.
I know, that's the point. So everybody, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hot do we think Maria Orsic is?
She was probably very hot, I would imagine, at the time.
Yeah, pure German, blonde, blue-eyed. I'll just give her an 8.8 or something. So everybody out there, we love you guys. We appreciate your support. As I've said, we're growing all the time, but also we are censored in some regard. It always bothers me. We have more than 2,000 people on YouTube, and we're growing more and more. Solid 9. Yeah, she's a solid 9. But the more that you put help out and send it out there, tell your friends about the show, all that stuff helps. You can buy merch. I'm wearing a Class Horrorcast design. There's new merch designs. If you guys are, he's wearing some of the merch design. So if you guys are, I also put up new ones that is embracing Canadian heritage. One that I think some of the fans of the show will like. It says, "This is our country," and it has the red ensign flag. So if you're a Canadian, some of that stuff is now up on. Yeah, that looks sweet. Yeah, thank you. Great show. Cheers, boys. We have some really cool merch. We don't get that much money off of it, as I've said many times, but support, 5-star rating, reviews, all those things help us get out there. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the love, appreciate all the support, the emails, the fans sending us messages. I'm very busy in my life, but I'm going to try to throw some different topics at you guys, and we'll go live and all that stuff and have fun and do more fun things. I appreciate all you guys. All right. Well, I never know how to end this, so go support the show.
Jesus, don't do that.
I know, don't do that. So go support all that good stuff. I'm just gonna end this, or I'm just gonna keep blabbering.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Love you.